You were talking about fatigue, which reminded me of when Duff was talking about like decision fatigue with the toothpaste, the
Too many
350,
options.
350 options. And there's two things that come to mind for me there. The first would be subscription fatigue, which is very much a real thing in the modern day. Initially, they had a couple internet services that were competing on price for their subscription. So like Steam,
Hmm.
not I don't think Steam specifically, but a company like Steam that offered you a whole bunch of stuff you could subscribe to. Netflix is a subscription. Hulu is a subscription. YouTube has that secondary subscription service that lets you watch videos a day in advance or whatever. And it's got to the point where people were offering their subscriptions for free and people still weren't taking it. And what they found out is that there's actual subscription fatigue. If you look at YouTube, for example, it's free to subscribe to every channel you watch. But you don't want to subscribe to every channel you watch because then your homepage will just be nonsense
Yeah.
that you don't want to watch. And so there's this literal limit of how many things you want to be subscribed to, whether or not you're paying money for it. It's just the amount of things you're giving your attention to.
Right.
And that brought to mind the illusion of choice with all of the toothpastes. Toothpaste is a bad example because toothpaste is actually a good thing to choose. But say, for instance, you had your smartphone and it got old, it's slow, it's not working well,
Hmm.
you're thinking of changing your provider anyway. So you go to the store and you see four different providers, each with six different phone models. And you have all these choices and it distracts you from the actual choice. This is why it's called the illusion of choice.
Hmm.
Because your real choice is, do I want to get a cell phone or not? You don't have to get the
No,
smartphone.
you gotta have a smartphone.
But because there are so many choices and it's
can't-
so important,
you can't live without
you
this.
swear you have to have the cell phone. So
How are you gonna be
the
reached?
moment you're presented with all of these choices, you've instantly forfeited your actual choice, which is, am I going to buy this or not?
Right.
Rather than which one am I going to buy? So what are your thoughts on, subscription fatigue, choice fatigue, decision fatigue, illusion of choice? The
Yeah, it's a
list
real
goes
big
on.
issue. Yeah, I mean, one of the things about the research from Barry Schwartz and his colleagues is the idea that if you ask people in advance, how many choices do you want? Do you want 2 choices, 10 choices, 50 choices, 1,000 choices? People always choose the maximum number of choices in advance. But if you actually give them a limited range of choices, they'll be happier. They'll be happier with their decisions. They'll have less buyer's remorse. They'll feel like they made a good choice, and they'll make the choice faster. So in advance, we're sort of like biased towards wanting maximum choice. If you go on YouTube and it says, well, you just can't watch these videos. They're not available in your country. You'll throw a fit. You'll write your congressman. Like, I want to watch these videos. I don't care if they're not available in my country. I'm going to get a VPN and get around that. I'm going to get choice. But but actually having all these choices, we're less happy than if we didn't have all these choices. In some ways, people go on meditation retreats or go camping or go to the Bahamas or whatever so they can get away from internet. So they can have fewer choices about what they have to choose to eat. So we're trying to escape our biases towards what we think is going to make us happy all the time. It's a fascinating problem. It's just, there's no one solution for this, but it is an ongoing problem in the information age.
as as much as anything, I feel like what we face really is a whole labyrinth of questions, trees of decisions that we're making about how it is that we're going to respond and act in any given situation, how it is that we're going to mediate the way that our attention moves through the world, discriminate the things that matter to us, and find something that we're going to focus or hone our attention in upon. And I definitely feel like that question of whether or not I want a cell phone is a key one. I mean, I feel like
I don't have one, by the way.
I feel like in a lot of ways, a cell phone right now signifies connection to your network. So the question is, how deeply connected to your network do you want to be? You have alternate ways of connecting to your network, which totally sidesteps the problem. It was a response that you made that allowed you to get away from the uncomfortable ambiguity of the wall of cell phones that you would look at. And for me, I feel like I tended to be a satisficer pretty explicitly with things that are like that. I'm not going to spend a lot of time trying to determine which cell phone is going to really give me the best data plan or anything like that. I kind of just swallow the cost and accept that there will be, other cell phones, other plans or whatever that are going to be better than the one that I find out about, and that's all right. I don't need it to be perfect. What I need for my own health, well-being, and happiness is to align everything that's inside of me with the things that matter the most to me. The core of my life is built around art. I love to make art. I love this intuitive sense that I feel like I've built up, that the world is beautiful, and that the way that I engage the world, it gives me an opportunity, an everyday opportunity, to embrace the beauty of the world and to participate in the process of creating beauty in the world. It leaves me with this intuition that actually there's a climactic historical element to it, that the world is growing more beautiful, and that in spite of all of the negative things that we're able to dissect out of the world, we can recognize that actually things are getting better in a lot of ways. And even if you don't notice it, even if you feel like your job is drudgery and you're not really sure why you have to do a job in the first place, there is value that you can draw from any experience that you have. And the more that you're able to pipeline that into deeper intuitive understanding of the beauty that's in the world that you live in, the more profoundly you can love and embrace the world that you're in. It creates the opportunity to start making sacrifices. If I think myself that I have to have something be a certain way or else I'm not going to be able to be happy, then it becomes this limiting function that prevents me from being able to engage situations effectively, because I'm sitting there haggling inside of myself with the fact that I don't have everything working the way that I would want it to. And it's just this tragedy. It's an unfortunate error in my system of my own thinking. What seems important to me, though, is that I should get to the core of what I value the most and then organize all of the other questions around that.
Yes.
The more deeply reflectively I engage with my inner life and try to dissect and understand the different facets that I find there, the more that I'm able to make real decisions about how I organize my perception of the world. And the more deeply that I organize my perception of the world around values that I've considered, the more deeply I'm going to experience happiness, the more valuable the contribution I make to the world is going to be. Everything will be better in the world because I make this change. It's not to say that it's not to make some special claim about how far my opinion goes or how many people this will influence. I would love for the messages that I say, the best things that I say, to stretch out to many people. But my intuition is that we participate in a tremendously deep network of intercommunication, and that everyone is more or less facing up to the circumstances that they found themselves in, trying to reconcile and trying to find some way of navigating that internal space, deciding what things to pay attention to, deciding whether or not they want this cell phone or that cell phone, or whether they want a cell phone at all.
Yeah.